Okay, my brothers, I want to share a Facebook post that I just came across earlier today, and I thought it was very appropriate to share it in this discussion. The poster said, and this clearly is a Pakistani, the scholar from Pakistan handed over to the Americans by the tyrant dictator Pervez Musharraf. All Afghanis are our brothers and freedom fighters. So it is not a crime to stand our ground against occupiers that is in the US who are the terrorists here. Now that Talibans have pardoned the US and given them protection, we want the daughter of our nation back in our homeland, quote unquote. Your thoughts on this ongoing saga of our sister in Islam, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui? Those, as you could tell by the nature of the discourse, those were videos that were made years ago. But now we're in the 18th year of Aafia's wrongful imprisonment, and as a political prisoner and prisoner of war, and her condition is, to put it in one word, it's terrible. What are your thoughts?
I remember first going to Aafia's family's house in 2010. I met with her mother. I met with her sister Fawzia. I met with Ahmed, the young boy, and with Maryam, all of whom had been in custody with Aafia. Who wasn't present was Suleiman, the young boy, who at the time of his disappearance, of Aafia's disappearance, was only 6 months old. We've never known what became of him, and it's rumored that he died. Now, there are several, I'd say, smokes and mirrors around this case. But what is evident, as somebody who himself has been a prisoner of the United States military in Afghanistan, I can tell you this much. Under US military protocol, no soldier will ever leave his weapon unattended. No soldier will leave his weapon loaded and cocked with a round in the chamber, knowing that there is a dangerous prisoner to be had close by, which is what they accuse Aafia of being. Now, not for want of trying, I know there was many people who would have, in Guantanamo, Bagram, elsewhere, who had been fighting the Americans. There's no doubt about that. And had they had the opportunity, they would have picked up a weapon and fired it against the Americans. No doubt in my mind. But the Americans would never allow that to happen because of the protocol they follow as professional soldiers. That's one part of it. So I find it extremely hard to believe that Aafia, this 5-foot-something woman who weighs about 100 pounds, could manage to somehow overpower these guards, take the weapon, and then fire it, miss, and then get shot. So Yvonne Ridley has gone to Afghanistan. She's gone to Bagram. She's gone to the home of the governor of Ghazni. She's gone to the police station where it happened. And everybody who spoke in that case from the Afghans, remember, they were on the side of the Americans after all. They said that the events that took place that day are nothing like what have been described by the Americans. Yet none of their testimony has been allowed into the court at all. In addition to this, the fact that Aafia Siddiqui disappeared and says, and even identifies some people at the time where she said she was held in US custody in Bagram and was tortured, abused, physically and sexually violated, none of it was permitted into the court proceedings. There are people I know or know of who have been accused of killing American soldiers, let alone attempting to, who are not serving the kind of sentence Aafia gets. And there's one more thing, of course, that's really important. How does the United States of America have jurisdiction, legal jurisdiction, over a woman, a Pakistani woman in Afghanistan? Because if they have jurisdiction of all cases in Afghanistan, that means anybody that commits a crime in Afghanistan against anybody should be brought to the United States of America. So these fundamental questions make me think that there's something far more sinister taking place. And one more thing that I'm almost completely and shockingly and ashamedly, I have to say, as a dual British and Pakistani citizen, the Pakistanis handed me over to the Americans without any legal process. They took me from my house at gunpoint with a gun to my head in the middle of the night in front of my family, dragged me away, forced me to be interrogated by American CIA. They said to me in the words, in order to those who know Urdu, bete, it means, it's a term of endearment, oh son, we know you've done nothing wrong, but this is America breathing down our necks. We must do this. So they handed me over, and Pervez Musharraf was in charge at the time, and without any due legal process at all. I call it a kidnap, an abduction, and a rendition. That is what it was. There was nothing legal about it in any form, shape, or whatsoever. And me at the time, being a citizen of Pakistan, if they could do that to me, they could do that to anybody of other citizenship. And indeed, Pervez Musharraf and I have the same publisher. We have, ironically, the same people published our books. In his book, In the Line of Fire, he says that I received bounties of millions of dollars for people I handed over. That included citizens of other nations, but it also included citizens of his own country. And Pakistan has, as a result of applying American foreign policy in its country, lost tens of 50 to 60,000 troops and people, and instituted a program of rendition, kidnap, disappearance, the likes of which Aafia Siddiqui's case is only one. There are hundreds of disappeared. There's a sister there called Amina Masood Janjua, whose husband has been disappeared for 15 years. She started an organization called Defense of Human Rights, and as a result has learned about thousands of cases of Baluchis, of those in the war on terror and so forth. And it is shocking that we are where we are with the case of Aafia, getting assaulted in prison, and asking for people to come and simply get her back home, get her repatriated, so that she can live out the rest of her days and see the children. They are now all grown up now, they're all adults, that she last saw when they were babes in arms.
You know, brother, I know Sister Amina. I had the pleasure of spending time with her along with Dr. Fawzia and some of the other frontline defenders of human rights in Pakistan when I visited in 2014. She is a remarkable sister. SubhanAllah, brother Tariq, what are your thoughts? You know, when you and I first met, Brother Tariq, it was at one of the national conventions. You were the keynote speaker, and I approached you, not knowing if you were going to respond. Wait a minute, was that the first time at the convention, or was it in Boston at the large center in Boston? Because we met early on twice. We met at the Boston Center. I gave you a copy of a book. And then we also met at a convention center, but on both occasions, I mentioned Aafia to you, and at the convention, I asked you, and it was very short notice, I asked you if you would say something about her. In fact, yes, we met first at the large masjid on Malcolm X Boulevard in Boston. That was when we first met. I had given you a copy of the book that we had just recently released on Aafia, asked you to read it, and you know, and knowing that, or feeling that we were going to connect again at a later date, and alhamdulillah, we did. The second time we met, it was at a convention, and I asked you if you read the book. I asked you if you would say something about Aafia, and you did, and that is what really deepened my respect for you and endeared you to me, because there were so many other prominent leaders and organizations in America that have avoided the issue of Aafia Siddiqui like it was the plague.
If I may, just a moment,
yes.
Before you ask the question, I just want to say something about Sheikh Tariq on this. He's a person that I have known for many, many years. And if there's any time or issue that we've approached him for, that is on the basis of basic human dignity, to say something, even if he doesn't know very much about it. He's been the first one in comparison to many people at his same status or maqam. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and strengthen him and protect him to continue this. Please, sorry for that interjection. It was just important.
My pleasure, brother, to give you that opportunity. You know, given what both I and our brother Moazzam has had to say, and given the circumstance that we now face, this sister of ours, 18 years in, and we're about to begin we haven't had anything for Aafia Siddiqui publicly in over a year because of the pandemic. We're about to launch a 5-city mobilization, 5-city mobilization over a 2-month period in September and October, 5 cities. What do you have to say, Dr. Tariq Ramadan, about this sister of ours and the need for us to respond, especially in this moment when we have in America so much focus on issues of justice? As a result of the conversion of the pandemic and, you know, this movement that erupted as a result of that murder, that police murder that took place in Minnesota, that got the attention of the global community and got a response not only here in America from the globe, but from the global community. The amount of attention and pressure right now in the United States around issues of justice. This is an opportunity for those who have been weak-hearted up until now. What do you have to say to them about Aafia Siddiqui and our responsibility to her and to others like her, Dr. Ramadan?
Barakallahu fikum. Look, I think that once again, all what you said about her life, the trajectory and what happened to her, and even the 2 videos that we watch right now is just showing what we know and in fact translating the reality of what is happening in many countries, and especially in the United States of America, in many Western countries. Now, it should be clear that Aafia Siddiqui and many others, because we are talking about hundreds of people now who are mistreated or in jail, and while they are completely innocent still now. When we talked recently, we were talking about Imam Jamil, and you know, when I met him almost 30 years ago, you know, just I was so impressed about what he had to say in one of the conference, and that we were there together. I was impressed. My take on what is happening today is that we are now experiencing something which is quite worrying. We are talking about human rights. We are talking about rule of law. But what we should understand is that globally, what they are calling the state of emergency is transforming the rule of law into something which is a gray area where anything is possible. Yes, they can take people from Pakistan, bring them to Eastern Europe, and torture the people in Morocco, torture the people in Egypt, torture the people wherever. Rendition, it's there, and they are lying. They are lying. All what is said about Aafia Siddiqui, about the fact that we didn't know and people are disappearing. We just saw watch the movie of the Mauritanian. It's just showing what happened to somebody who was also handed over by his own country to the Americans, and the way he was treated, as Moazzam was saying. Now we have to take a position, and you know, both of you, and this is why, you know, Moazzam with Cage and all what we had been doing before even he was jailed, and then what he is doing with the brothers in the UK and around the world, and you yourself in Washington being the voice for the voiceless and trying to make people hear what you have to say, and leaders who are not ready to talk or scared or afraid to talk about the issue. I think now it's for us, of course, to support and to use this stories and these realities, Aafia Siddiqui and some of the prominent people that we are supporting, to make it clear that if the Muslims, if the Western Muslims are going to carry on being silent about the fact that this state and ongoing state of emergency is helping and allowing the Western countries, democratic Western countries, to deal with prisoners in that way, to keep people in jail when they know they are innocent, because they know they are innocent. It's not about we don't know. They know they are innocent. They keep them in jail. They are torture. And this is the reality. If it's not physical torture, it's psychological torture, because solitary confinement is torture, is nothing else but torture. So we, as Muslims today, when we are free, tell me, if you went out, for me, for example, you know, I'm the son of some, my father, rahimahullah, left Egypt because of political repression. Am I going to stay in the West and just to keep quiet when this is done now in the West with people who were born and raised or coming from Pakistan and coming from other countries, in the name of, you know what, we have to make the people love Islam. No, we have to make the people respect Muslims and Islam. And if you want the people to respect Muslims, respect yourself and respect the dignity of the people. But what I see today with the leadership of in so many Muslim communities in the West, this silence, this fact that we are not ready to talk, is not only not helping the people who are in jail, but it's not helping the Muslim communities. Because this is, you know, they are testing us. We take this one, we take this one, we take this one, we'll see. If you are silent, we can carry on. If you can't, if you start speaking out, we are going to stop. Because we know that as for the numbers, the Muslims are millions now. So the democratic process is playing for us, if and only if we are knowing our religion enough, respecting our principles enough, and be courageous enough with what we have to stand for. And I think that this is why, once again, when you told me Moazzam is going to be with us, I'm very happy, because I think that he is the voice to be heard now, and you are the voice to be heard. We are now, and we have to try to get the people to be ready to speak out about these issues, and not only to speak about, you know, okay, Black Lives Matter is great, but I want the people from Black Lives Matter to speak about all these people and what they are saying when they are saying, you know, there is connections between, you know, intersectionality. That's fine. But now you bring Muslims within. Because if you are Black and Muslims like Imam Jamil, you are twice you are going to face injustices. So say it with us. Don't just speak about Blackness, speak about this. And we want also the white convert Muslims and leaders to speak out and to say this is the same issue. We are on the same boat, and I think that our silence is not helping. So I didn't want to come with the details, because you know the details more than me, but what I think we have to share is the global picture, by being able to say we are not going to be quiet, because our dignity as Muslims is also the way we are going to deal with prisoners in our countries. If we are silent, this is showing how much we are cowards in the way we deal with our own principles. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam.
Brother Moazzam, I'm going to give you 1 minute, brother, for just a closing thought, inshallah. 1 minute. You're muted, Aki. You're muted.
Sorry. Again, we began with Afghanistan. I'm going to return back to Afghanistan. Afia's story begins in Afghanistan. There's a big link, like Tariq said. Whatever happens in Afghanistan is going to have a ripple effect throughout the rest of the world, though it is a landlocked country, probably the poorest in the world, but it is very significant in our lifetime. It's also very, very significant in Afia's case, because if you go back to the root of her case, all the details that wasn't taken about what happened there still need to be prevented. And I believe that the case would be overturned if you had evidence from those police chiefs, governors, and physical employees of the Afghan government who were physically there giving testimony about what happened. There are leaders, as I've said, of the Taliban who've been released. There are Osama bin Laden's right-hand men and close confidants and drivers and so forth. They've been released as part of the kind of an end to the war on terror. How could it be that Aafia Siddiqui, who has not harmed a soul, could remain in prison as a result of this? How do you balance that out? Frontline commanders who fought and killed American soldiers in the battlefield are free, negotiating with the Americans.
On the broadcast.
How is it possible that Aafia Siddiqui remains in prison? So if there's anything now that we must say, is that it is time for this to be over. This chapter must, if you want to close this chapter, close it by, if you recall, the Taliban had actually at one point before the negotiations, included the return of Aafia Siddiqui. Now this shows the shame of the Pakistani government and how the Taliban said that, you know, she was captured on our soil, she should be returned back to her country. Really, now it's enough. And we need to, like Tariq Ramadan said, that if people are not speaking out, we need to be courageous enough to make those calls. Wallahu alam.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, my brother, it has been a real pleasure having the two of you on together this afternoon. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to do this again soon. An hour is too short. With that said, I want to thank you both, and may Allah ta'ala bless you and fortify you for the struggle ahead. We need your voices, and as they say in South Africa, a luta continua, the struggle must continue. So with that said, I want to close out by first reminding our brothers and sisters, our friends who are Muslim and non-Muslim, of very sterling observations that were made by two prominent figures in the Western tradition and in the Eastern tradition, both of them many generations apart, however, saying the same thing. Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he is reported to have said, civilization is based on justice, and the consequences of oppression are devastating. Therefore, it is said, Allah aids the just state, even if it is non-Muslim, and withholds his help from the oppressive state, even if it is Muslim. Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of this experiment called democracy in America, he made an observation that touched upon the same theme, issues of justice and consequence. He said, I tremble for my country when I reflect God is just. His justice cannot sleep forever. So these issues are issues that should be of paramount concern for all of us across the board, irrespective of race, creed, color, philosophy, ideology. It should be of concern to us all, because what goes around at the end of the day comes around. We close with Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi kusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Which means, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time, through the ages, verily, humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.